Please consider liking the video and subscribing. Let's begin. These Cuphead videos that I've been making recently have been really fun, and so far we looked at Inkwell IO2 and Inkwell IO3, and you guys seem to really enjoy them, and I love making these. So if you don't know by now, I'll be happy to explain. In this video, I'm going to be looking at the Cuphead boss transition animations and ranking them, or should I say grading them, by using the Cuphead game's grading system. And at the end, I'll gather up all the S ranks and crown my personal favorite animation. Also, I'll decide which one is the worst. Here we have the final Inkwell in the game, Inkwell Hell. So let's not waste any more time because we have a whole lot of bosses to look at. It sure looks like a brawl is surely brewing. When first entering Inkwell Hell, we must face the devil's right-hand man, King Dice. Now here's the thing, this fight is completely different than any other battle in the game. You have to fight a lot of mini-bosses before even fighting King Dice, and the thing is, those bosses only have one phase. So instead of me ranking the boss's transition, since there isn't any, I'm going to be looking at the death animations and the theme of the bosses. That's only for this fight though. For the devil, that one is just a normal fight, so I'll rank that one separately. With all that cleared up, let's look at the first boss. With the very first boss here, it's Tipsy Troop, which is set in a very fancy restaurant that you'd see in a high-end casino, which makes sense, of course. As for the boss itself, it's different alcoholic glasses. We have a rum glass, martini glass, and a whiskey bottle. Also, by looking at the background, there's a lot of scary characters eating and mingling. Everything looks so grim. You can see some demons, a ghost, a skeleton donkey, and some strange monster lady looking at us fight. I'll give credit to the people at MDHR. Those characters look too scary to be in the Cuphead universe. They did a good job with this one. In terms of the theme, I'd say this is pretty cool. I'm going to give this a B. For the death animations though, they each die one by one, and it isn't really anything special. They just kind of slope over. I'm giving this a D. Moving on to the next one. Next, we have Chip Bennington. Here, Cuphead is fighting a stack of casino chips. Now, this is one of the easiest bosses on this stage. In terms of theme, it makes sense. Chips for a casino, it's very fitting. Starting the fight, we see a hand stack the chips together. Now, I don't think this is King Dice because the suit is all white, and King Dice has a purple suit, so this perhaps is probably the dealer. And for the background, we see a bunch of skeletons who are just watching us. What's cool is one of them is smoking a cigar, and the smoke comes off it at the end. I love these little details, man. So in terms of theme and aesthetic, I'm going to give this one a solid B. As for the death animation, if you pay very close attention to the bottom half of his chips, they get flung off the screen as if the chips just scattered, like when you drop a pile of them. Also, his hat rocks back and forth in the air before hitting the playing area. It's not bad, but also not mind-blowing. It's looking like a C. As for the last boss before entering the first safe space, we have Mr. Wheezy, who's a giant cigar. Now, what's really cool is when the match starts, we actually see King Dice's hand from the top light him up. This is really cool. In the background, we see a lot of people smoking and talking to each other. But I don't really know where this match is taking place. I know it's on an ashtray, but I see this because the background looks warpy and the people look blended in together. But for the theme, this is really good. I'm giving this an A. The death animation on this one automatically beats the last two. When defeating him, he frightfully looks up and we see the foot of King Dice come in and smash him to death. It's kind of dark, but I love how King Dice has a hand in killing him, and it's cool to see him to make cameos in these fights. For this, I'm giving this one an S. Everyone's favorite couple, Pip and Dot. This is a change of pace for the theme because I don't really know how many casinos have dominoes as a game you could gamble in. Now here, we're not even in the casino anymore. We're in like the domino dimension. In the background, you can see all sorts of different colored domino dots. For this theme, I'm giving it a C. The death animation here is kind of a funny one. Pip is looking dazed and confused while Dot is repeatedly hitting him, not only to snap him out of it, but because she's mad at him for losing the fight. Even before the knockout screen, you could see him looking at her like he knows what's coming. This is really cool. I'm giving this a B. Next, we have a really cool boss. It's Hopus Pocus, a rabbit who is a magician. The battle starts and we see King Dice pull him out of a hat, followed by what we can hear the cheers of children who are impressed by this magic trick. The attacks of this fight are really cool. There are so many cards and the coloring is just awesome. Hopus himself looks like a crazy magician. I really like this one. I'm giving the theme an A. The death animation is also not something to overlook. After defeating him, he begins to choke in his bow tie, beginning to be pulled apart, and the little sound effects add so much to it. It's kind of like he's choking on stage. This animation represents the term, tough crowd, huh? I'm giving this one an A. Moving on here, we have Far Lap. In this boss stage is first plane level, and it is worthy. Now, let me just say, whoever designed this boss is a genius. Absolutely stunning. The match starts, and we see an empty spectator seat. Then, we see Far just jump in. There's a long neck in the background. We can see that they are fighting. There's a horse racing. There's just spooky things. The specters are all ghosts. The track itself seems haunted. This is such a stunning boss fight. First time I saw this, I was genuinely blown away. The horses and the riders, the past for the theme, this is an S rank for sure. Looking at the death animation, it does have a lot to offer. Once defeated, Far looks like just really messed up. First, his little hat comes apart and rips. Then we see him hold money in his hand as if he just lost a giant bet. He still wants to keep going at it. But looking at his whole body now, he looks at brittle and fragile. His facial expression goes from being mean and confident to almost weeping in defeat. There's a lot of detail here. I'm giving this one an S rank. Next, we have Pirouletta, a boss that is kind of overshadowed. The boss starts and the match takes place on a roulette board, where we see a bunch of mysterious hands in the background placing their bets. This boss stage does a good job making you feel small. In terms of theme, it does make sense, but like I said, I feel like this one's overshadowed. I mean, come on, imagine having to follow a dead humping horse. How do you even compare it? So, I'm giving this one a C. The death animation here is also nothing special. She just stands in place and is in disbelief that she was defeated. Nothing crazy. I'm giving this one a D. In this boss stage's easiest boss, we have Mangosteen, a giant 8-ball. The battle begins, and at first, it's just a giant 8-ball in the air. Then his face comes from behind. The background here is something very trippy. We see a lot of pool balls in the sky and what seems like a space. Also, to this day, I'm not sure what he uses to attack us, with like what it is that come out of his mouth. If you know what it is, please write it down below in the comments. It's just like a space orb, so I don't really know what it is. In terms of theme, it's a nice boss battle, but there is not much to look at. I mean, the background is nice, but so far, I'm going to give it a C. As for the death animation, it is something random and kind of disturbing. When defeated, he starts to vomit this black tar that just spills out of his mouth like crazy. As to what it is, I don't even know. It could be anything. His eyes all start to go crazy, rolling around, even the sound effect, a mix between vomiting and also something spilling. This for sure gets an A. Moving on to the final mini-boss, we have the broken Mr. Chimes. Now, let me say, this is my least favorite boss here in this level, but I'll put my bias aside. The match begins and we see Mr. Chimes drop in the crane. He then sticks out his tongue out taunting the player. Now here we can't damage him unless we match the correct cards in the background. So in this one, the background actually has a purpose in the fight. Once matching the cards, they go up and we see the rest of the casino, the other plushies in the crane. In terms of theme, it's clever. I'm giving this one a B. For his death animation, it is a little funny. After defeating him, he begins to go kind of crazy. He starts banging his head in between his cymbals. Also, while doing this, his little hat bounces up and down from his head. This isn't a bad animation, but it is kind of simple. I'm going to give this one a C. Finally, we have reached the boss of these minions himself, King Dice. Now, this battle immediately begins when reaching the end on the board. He reaches over from the dealer's side and starts spawning infinite cards. His eyes change from black to bright green. Now, I'm not sure why this happens. The match takes place in the main hub where we return from defeating each boss. What's cool is he is the background and the boss. I am a huge fan of King Dice. I think he's a really cool character. I'm giving this one, in terms of its theme, an A. The boss fight is fairly simple. As long as you're good at parrying, once defeating him, we see who he really is. The facade of being a high-end and fearless goon, he's actually not that at all. We see his suit now torn up. Along with that, he's missing one tooth, and his gloves are actually sentient. They begin to fall to their knees and just look really sad. He himself looks like a mess. I'm going to give this one an S. Moving on to the final boss. The final boss of the main game, the man himself, the reason why Cuphead and Monkman went on this adventure to begin with. The devil. The boss opens up with the devil kind of giving us credit for making it this far, and he offers us a choice to join him. By denying him, it triggers the final boss. It opens up with the devil looking at us, and Cuphead just looks absolutely terrified. In the devil's eye, we see a silhouette of a cup, but then in an instant, it gets cut up in many different pieces. This starting animation is really cool. Immediately, it gets an A. Onto the second phase, he grabs at his face, pulling it apart, and then rips off his skin and reveals his skeleton. It jumps out of his skin, which is left slumped on his throne, as if it was an inflatable suit. Fire begins to consume the throne room. Cuphead must jump through a hole in the ground. Such a cool transition animation. I'm giving this one an S. After taking care of that phase, that's when things start to heat up. The devil's giant face goes from being smiling evil to now being annoyed. He turns his head up as if he's starting to just now feel the pain we're doing to him. He gets angry. Now the battle picks up. This transition is sudden. I do like the facial expressions. I'm giving this one a B. Entering the third and final phase, now his facial expression changes from being angry to now out of nowhere breaking down in tears. Now, to why this happens is maybe because he knows he's going to lose, but we don't know for sure. But it's cool to see him cry. You know, his facial expression here is just amazing. Once again, you look up and he starts crying. You can hear him weep and his tears fall down his face. I'm giving this one an A. As for my favorite death animation, it has to be the ending, where we see him hold his head in pain. Also, one of his horns is bandaged. Along with that, one of his teeth is chipped. He truly does look defeated. Here, he knows that his reign of terror is over. A little bonus thing here is that in the end of the book, we see that the devil is even more messed up, with an ice pack, broken arm, and waving a white flag. Cuphead and Monkman free everyone from the devil, and the game ends. That is every boss animation ranked in Inkwell Hell. So, let's look at the results. Here are the best ones. We have the following. Out of these four, my personal favorite is the Devil's Skeleton face transition. Now, the others here are also very elite. It's just with the Devil, it's really cool how he jumps out of his skin and the sign on the floor telling you to go. Like, it's just really fun and creative. As far as the worst one here, it's a tie between the Tipsy Troops, Death, and Pirouletta. If I'm going to go with one, I'm giving it to Pirouletta. The reason for this is the Tipsy Troops just had more character to them. Plus, the aesthetic was way better. I want to say thank you all so much for the support in this series. It has been really fun making these videos, and thank you all for watching them. Plus, if there's any you like and feel like deserve more credit, write it down below in the comments, and I'll be happy to read them. Now, I know there's a DLC, and I'll be happy to make another one of these. Anyway, please make sure to like and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.